Welcome into another episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. I am your host, Rob Wong. And hey, the Blue Jays are back in the win column after a nail-biting 4-3 win over the Los Angeles Dodgers to salvage one game in that 3-game series, but more importantly, ending an ugly 6-game losing streak. There's no time to waste, so here are my 3 observations from this week. So I got a chance to check out the game on Tuesday night, and first off, props to all the people that took part in breaking the Looney Dog consumption record, 102,202. Hopefully your guts were okay the next day. That's a lot of hot dogs, and I guess it helps too that they were 77 cents, so you got a little bit of a discount as the Blue Jays celebrated the first game in franchise history. But what's everybody's hot dog condiment choice, by the way? I'm a ketchup, mustard, relish, mayo kind of guy. Occasionally bacon bits if I'm feeling up to it, but I might be in the minority. Mayo is a must for me. I remember trying it as a young child and I got hooked. At first I was like, mayo? Like who the hell would want this on a hot dog? But then the first time I took a bite, I was like, okay, I get it now. So I've been a mayo guy for a long time. I'm sure there's a few of you listening to that right now and just absolutely disgusted and yelling at the podcast on your phone right now because you're wondering why would anyone put mayo on a hot dog? But yes, I'm a mayo on a hot dog kind of person. Anyways, I was down at the Dome on Tuesday, and with the amount of media there, it did feel a little World Series-y. It was a huge game for the Japanese media, of course, with Yamamoto, Okamoto, and Ohtani all playing. But to me, the Yankees were a draw when they came to Toronto as a kid. I remember going to games that was a big draw every year because you had people from New York making the trip up to check it out. Going to Rogers Center, watching Jeter, Posada, Pettit, Clemens, Rivera, El Duque, Mike Mussina, Tino Martinez, Bernie Williams. Those were the Yankees teams of my youth. And feels like the Dodgers have taken over the Yankees as that traveling circus that packs stadiums across Major League Baseball. But despite it being a packed house, there just didn't have that feel of the buzz down at the Dome. Maybe you were there and you can tell me otherwise, but the combination of it being not the World Series and the Blue Jays not playing particularly well coming into that game, it just felt like something was missing. I know for Jays fans, at least some of you out there, you were hoping for a little bit of closure out of this series. Maybe if the Jays won 2 out of 3 or swept the series, it helps heal the wound of the World Series loss just a little bit, but losing 2 of 3 to the Dodgers does make it a little bit worse on some level because LA showed once again in this series why there's a good chance they're going to get back there again. They're just so insanely deep with that lineup, the rotation, of course, and now the bullpen with Edwin Diaz back there. But good for the Blue Jays. They showed some life in the series finale against a tough opponent and were able to win one with Shohei Ohtani on the mound. So that was extra impressive that they were at least able to get him out of that ball game somewhat early and eventually got to the bullpen. But I would say out of the 3 games, that was definitely not one of them that you were circling down as a win. But a win is a win is a win. They don't ask how, they just ask how many. And the Blue Jays come away with 1 win to salvage that series. And a big reason why they were able to win was the pitching. Dylan Cease got the start, and I think a lot of us were curious about how he was going to look after a so-so start in Chicago. Knowing what we know now about the illness running rampant through the team and specifically the pitchers, it makes a lot of sense why he wasn't sharp, but this one against the Dodgers, he was much better. Walks, still an issue at this point, 5.5 per 9 on the season, which is way, way too high. Dylan Cease is never going to be a master of control. He is effectively wild, if you want to put it that way. But on the bright side, home runs have not been an issue. He hasn't given up a single one this year after allowing 21 a season ago. I know there was a little bit of a narrative during the offseason when he signed with the Blue Jays that he's homer prone, but you look over his career, he's kind of average when it comes to that. He is not someone that is giving up a ton of homers, but to not give up any through these first 3 starts and against 2 opponents, in particular, the Athletics and the Dodgers that have a ton of power, I think that is a good sign that he is not giving up the long ball so far because, as I mentioned, he's been walking guys, so there have been batters on base, runners on base, but the long ball has not come back to hurt him just yet. So if he can curb the walks just a little bit, you feel even better about what he is doing so far this season. And once again, it's the pitch usage that really jumps off the page, because a season ago, historically, he's really been just a two-pitch pitcher. Fastball, slider, which are elite pitches, of course. But, once again, against the Dodgers, he was showing off the complete arsenal. And now on the season, he is throwing 36% sliders, throwing 32% fastballs. He is mixing in the curveball 10% of the time. The changeup now up to 8%. The sinker he's incorporated at 8%. And the sweeper now as well at 7%. But if you dial it back to a year ago, the changeup was only being thrown 1% of the time. So it really goes to show you how much he has incorporated all his pitches. And it's just making it incredibly difficult on hitters, and has really just given him more weapons to attack the opposition. And you could see it too. I mean, the Dodgers, a lot of those guys have faced him before from his time with the Padres, and it really seemed as if a bunch of them had not gotten a chance to see the new arsenal, and were sort of dumbfounded occasionally swinging at pitches, especially the changeup. He made a couple of guys look pretty foolish with that off speed. So another solid outing for Dylan Cease. The knock has been the inconsistency, and so far it's one great one not so great, and one good. So we'll see how he does next time out against Milwaukee. Shout out as well to Louis Varland. I touched on him a little bit in the last pod, giving him props to the back end of the bullpen, which has definitely not been a reason why the Blue Jays lost 6 in a row. But it's great to see what Varland has done this season. This is a guy we saw flashes of last year, but definitely the guy now the Jays were hoping they were getting when they dealt for him from Minnesota at the trade deadline. He's just an absolute bulldog out there. And I got a chance to speak with Louis just a little bit before opening day about the sports card chain necklace that he was wearing on the way back from Dunedin to Toronto before this season. He said it was just a friendly banter thing between him and Miles Straw, who is his locker mates in the clubhouse. And Louis also showed me he got a Vlad Jr. card now too, but he's working on getting some more, so we'll have to see what other teammates he's able to pick up. But to have someone like Varland and someone like Tyler Rogers, two guys that you can give the ball to a ton and have a lot of success with, it's just a huge thing for John Schneider, knowing he's got a pair of setup guys that can be used basically anywhere in a game from the 6th to the 8th inning. So great job by the bullpen to keep this one close enough for the Jays to win one against LA. And for Jeff Hoffman, a little bit rocky there in the 9th inning, but once again showed some pretty elite strikeout stuff against Shohei Ohtani, and got Freddie Freeman to strike out. So a little bit of a bumpy ride there for Jeff Hoffman. But again, overall in the season, can't complain too much about what he has done as the Blue Jays closer. So even though the Jays did win that game, the fact remains that there's just too much sloppy, bad baseball being played right now. A lot of people talking about the 1 for 19 with the bases loaded to begin the season. I'm not worried about that at all. That's going to turn, no doubt in my mind. Part of it is they've gotten unlucky, but partly they've had some bad at-bats in those spots, no doubt about it. But the part has been concerning is just the amount of sloppy plays and poor decision-making. At the start of Major League, where they bring in the new players and everyone is just making error after error after error, that's what it's looked like at times during these first few weeks, with guys throwing the ball away or bad base running. It's one thing if it's a young player like Brandon Valenzuela, who has just come up, and we saw on Tuesday threw the ball away trying to toss it over to first base. But it's another when it's Vlad Jr. getting thrown out at third base after a leadoff double, or Dalton Varsho with a low percentage throw home trying to get a runner, but he's allowing two base runners to advance, taking away the double play. These guys obviously know better, but it's one of those things that they definitely need to shore up, because you can get away with these mistakes when you're playing bad teams, but teams like the Dodgers and teams like the Yankees, they're going to make you pay. The Blue Jays are an aggressive team. They do want to play on the front foot, but there just needs to be better awareness in certain situations. And we'll see what happens this weekend as the Minnesota Twins come to town. It'll be Patrick Corbin, something I never thought I would say, but it'll be Patrick Corbin getting the start for the Blue Jays in the opener. He was actually decent last year, 4.4 ERA in 30 starts for the Texas Rangers. Then on Saturday, it's another crafty lefty, Eric Lauer, who will hopefully be recovered from his flu bug. And in the series finale, it's Max Scherzer, who hopefully is feeling better after dealing with forearm tendonitis that cut his start short on Monday. So that'll do it for another episode. You can always send me your Blue Jays thoughts, questions, comments on Twitter at RobWong34, and you can follow the pod at 3_up_3_down. Make sure to follow the pod so you never miss an episode every Monday and Thursday morning. If you haven't already, drop a 5-star review and a like. It really helps out the pod, lets others know to check it out as well. I appreciate you, the listener, for checking this out each and every week so far this season. Thanks again. I'm Rob Wong. You've been listening to 3 Up, 3 Down, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. Enjoy the weekend.